Wide receivers are all the rage right now, but whether you've changed your philosophy wanting to go wide receiver early now, or that's what you've always done, you gotta make sure that you're picking the right guys in the early rounds. So who are some top must-haves and must-avoids if you're drafting wide receivers early on? Yo, Headliner Nation, this video is going to be quick hitting, and I'm going to be diving into each of the wide receivers that are being drafted in the first 2 rounds right now. I'm going to give you some pros and some cons and whether or not I think they're must-haves or must-avoids if you're thinking about taking them. You know that we love to do deep diving videos here on the channel, but today's video, we're really just going to keep it basic and simple because we've got a lot of guys to talk about. The consensus ADP #1 overall right now is Justin Jefferson, and it absolutely makes sense. And if you want to take Justin Jefferson #1 overall this season, honestly, I'm not going to argue against it. He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and one of the best things about him is he gets the volume, but he's also making big plays. The dude literally wins all over the field against everybody. The biggest con is going to be his inconsistency, though, because last season he let you down in several key games. But even with that being said, he's still a must-have for me, even if you're wanting to draft him #1 overall. Jamar Chase's ADP puts him right around 2.7 right now. And obviously his biggest pro is that he's got an awesome connection with his quarterback, Joe Burrow, and he's in a high-powered offense. Even last year with the hip injury, the dude still put together fantastic numbers when he was healthy from start to finish. The biggest con, though, is going to be T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, because those two guys are really good players and great wide receivers. At times, yes, they help keep the pressure off Jamar Chase and give him a lot of one-on-one matchups. But then there's other times where they're stealing big touchdowns and volumes that we would rather have go to Jamar Chase. But that's okay, because even at 2.7, he's still going to be a must-have for me. Even coming off the injury last season, Cooper Kupp has an ADP of 5 overall. It's crazy to me because when a running back gets injured, people are like, I'm not drafting him early. I don't want to get burned by him. But Cooper Kupp's coming off an injury and everyone's like, no, smash that draft button. Which makes sense because we know the dude is going to eat. #1, he's Matthew Stafford's favorite target. But #2, really who else there is going to get any type of volume? And being able to put Cooper Kupp in the slot, work him outside, and do different things with him is really good because it keeps the #1 cornerback off him more times than not. But not only are we going to have to watch his health, but Stafford's going to be a big key to that as well. We know Matthew Stafford loves him, but Stafford's coming to a point in his career where the injuries are just building up, and they could keep being an issue. So if he were to go down again, is Stetson Bennett really going to be the guy to continue to make Cooper Kupp a top 5 player? Even with that, I'll take the risk. I'm going to go must-have with Cooper Kupp at 5 overall. Tyreek Hill is going right behind him at 6 overall. And keep in mind, these ADPs that I'm pulling here are all redraft ADPs from across the industry. These are not best ball ADPs. So even people that are preparing for their redraft leagues right now are still tending to lean towards wide receivers more times than not. We'll have to see if that changes here in the next month or so. The biggest pro to Tyreek Hill is that we found out last season Patrick Mahomes didn't make him. He had a career year with Tua in Miami, and that is excellent to see because now we know that he's locked in and ready to go for 2023. There should be no doubts about Tyreek Hill. The major con, though, is going to be Tua and his concussions. If he were to go down again, it's really hard to anticipate Tyreek Hill continuing to have enough value to be a top 6 player. So because of that, and the fact that there is a wide receiver coming up in a minute that I'm going to tell you about, I have to be out on Tyreek Hill at 6 overall. The Tua concussions, along with the fact that there's another wide receiver I would much rather have right here, is going to lead me to avoiding him. But that doesn't mean avoid Tyreek Hill altogether, because he's still going to have a fantastic season. Stefon Diggs still has a first-round ADP, coming in just after 10 overall, even with all of the, well, let's say, noise around the Buffalo Bills this offseason. So the biggest pro about Stefon Diggs is he's probably still Josh Allen's guy, but the con could be maybe he's not Josh Allen's guy anymore. Whatever it may be, my hope is that they can repair the relationship, because Stefon Diggs, I really feel like, has been one of the most underrated wide receivers the last couple of seasons. He gives you big plays. He gives you consistency. He's in a high-powered offense, but it feels like people continue to lean towards other wide receivers and just overlook Stefon Diggs the last couple of years. And while I'm not completely out on Stefon Diggs, I would be out on him at the end of the first round, because once again, there is a wide receiver I would much rather have over him right now, and I think the questions about him and Josh Allen are legitimate. I need to see these guys on the field working together to make sure everything is smoothed over. Even CeeDee Lamb's ADP has made its way into the first round, which I don't hate, but I definitely don't love it either. I mean, he will continue to be the main weapon in Dallas, and my hope with having Michael Gallup and the newly acquired Brandon Cooks on the outside, that CeeDee Lamb can just stay in the slot. Because if he does that, he could legitimately be the next Cooper Kupp. But I think my main question is, what will the offense even look like? Because they're going to have a new offensive coordinator this year. No more Zeke Elliott. And who knows if Tony Pollard will be fully healthy to begin the season, or at this point, if he'll even report for training camp. Even Zach Martin has said at this point that he might not report for training camp either. And for as much as people continue to hate on Dak Prescott, can you really draft CeeDee Lamb in the first round if you don't trust Prescott to be a little bit more consistent this season? With all that being said, CeeDee Lamb is going to be a push for me. I'm not entirely out on him at this ADP. I'd rather get him at the beginning of the second round, but there's some things I'm still diving into that could lead me to say, absolutely, I gotta have him right here. I like CeeDee Lamb this year. I just don't know if I love this ADP. And if you need more help with your drafts than what this video is giving you, then I think that you need to get our 2023 Fantasy Draft Guide, which you can do for free right now. And it's super simple. All you need to do is download the Underdog app or head over to their website, create an account using code word headliners, and make a first-time deposit of at least $10. Not only will Underdog match your deposit up to $100, but then you'll get our 2023 Fantasy Draft Guide for absolutely no cost. That's a $21.99 value, and if you deposit $10, that's 50% off the price. And even if this video is strictly talking about redraft ADPs, it doesn't mean that you can't take this information and use it when you do your first Underdog draft. Again, code word headliners when you sign up and deposit at least $10, and we'll get you that draft guide for absolutely free. All right, now the reason that I've skipped on the last 3 wide receivers is because I absolutely want AJ Brown in as many drafts as possible this season. His current ADP of 12.3 honestly should be a lot higher, because this is a guy that I would take in the first round. Heck, if you're looking to go wide receiver early, I'm not taking anybody over him unless they're named Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, or Justin Jefferson. Why? Because AJ Brown wins absolutely everywhere on the field. And I am going to have a video coming up very soon talking about that information and why he is a guy you need this year. And honestly, when looking at the cons, is there one? Even though this offense runs the ball a lot, it never took away from AJ Brown last season. Even with Devonta Smith on the other side and Dallas Goedert, it didn't take away from AJ Brown last season. He showed big play upside. He can win in the middle of the field. Honestly, when you look at it, leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think AJ Brown's con is this season. And you know what? If you respond down below letting me know what AJ Brown's major con is this season, if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll pick one of you to get a free draft guide. AJ Brown at 12.3 is absolutely a must-have for me. Heck, if his ADP was 6, he would still be a must-have. Davante Adams is starting to fall, and for pretty good reason. His ADP is all the way down to 14.3 right now. And just like Tyreek Hill, his pro is that we found out that Aaron Rodgers didn't make him. Davante Adams legitimately one of the best wide receivers in all the NFL. But even for as good as he is, his con this season is that Jimmy G will make him. make him bad. I did a pretty extensive video in our draft guide about Davante Adams and why I'm really worried about him this season. So while I can't give you all the information right here, just let me tell you, I am very concerned. And even with this ADP in the second round, he is a must avoid for me. I gotta admit, even as a Lions fan, being very excited for this season and knowing how good Amon-Ra St. Brown is, I'm having difficulties with this one. We know he's the go-to guy in this offense and for Jared Goff. If they need something, they are looking to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he had a fantastic year. But there's a couple of things that are a little concerning for me. Number one being the increased weapons around him. They added Matt Laporta, you have Jahmyr Gibbs, and in week 7, Jameson Williams will be back. On top of that as well, Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't really like a big play guy. If you take a look at some of the underlying statistics last year, he was really looked at the intermediate to short part of the field, and that was about it. He was basically said, you need to create yards after the catch. And he didn't do that a whole lot. So the question is it because there weren't enough weapons around him to take the pressure off? Or is he just not really going to be that type of guy? But even if he gets close to the same amount of work that he saw last season, he should still be very close to being a top 12 wide receiver, if not anywhere from like 10 to 14 range. So for me, it's kind of a push because I don't mind him here, but I'm absolutely not loving him here as well. If he dropped a little bit further to like say the 3rd round, I would be all over that. But if you needed to draft him as your wide receiver 1, I probably wouldn't love that either. So really it's going to depend for me how your draft starts out. Garrett Wilson also isn't rising as high as I thought he would, because I thought for sure Garrett Wilson would be locked into the 1st round by this time, and he's not. His current ADP of 18.3 isn't bad, and considering the fact that he put up really good numbers last year with really bad quarterback play, that is a pro in my book. Really my biggest con for Garrett Wilson is going to be, is Aaron Rodgers done, and does he force feed some of the players that are his guys? Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, both with the New York Jets now. We know Aaron Rodgers loves those guys. Does he give them some targets that realistically should be going to Garrett Wilson? Garrett Wilson, to me, has a ceiling of like a Jamar Chase, honestly, because he's a guy that really can win all over the field. He can win in the middle, the intermediate. He can crank off those big plays if you need him to. But then it also worries me that he's going to disappear for some games if Aaron Rodgers just isn't feeling the connection that day. So again, this is a push for me because Garrett Wilson is my wide receiver 2. In the 3rd round, I would love that. But if you're drafting him here towards the end of the 2nd and he's your wide receiver 1, you're going to want to have some safety behind him. So again, it really depends on where does his ADP end up falling for you and who do you already take in front of him. Everything that we called with Jalen Waddle last season absolutely happened. His ADP sitting at 20.3 right now is not bad because we know last year the dude went off. And it didn't matter how good Tyreek Hill was. Jalen Waddle was so efficient with a more than enough volume that you could rely on him. But the same con as Tyreek Hill is going to be Tua's concussions. Because if Tua misses any point in time, it's not good for Jalen Waddle because he's just not going to be running in the same type of offense that Tua is able to help produce. But even with that being said, at the end of the 2nd round, I'm going to go with him as a must-have because right now, Tua is healthy and he's ready to go. And we know Jalen Waddle gives you wide receiver 1 upside every single week, even with Tua. And at 24.3, bordering there on the end of the 2nd round, Devonta Smith. The pro for Smith is that he doesn't need to be the wide receiver 1. He had pretty good numbers a couple of years ago as the wide receiver 1, but then they brought in A.J. Brown, and Smith doesn't need to see that cornerback 1 coverage or double coverage anymore, which really does allow him to win more times than not. But last season when Dallas Goedert was healthy, he absolutely killed Devonta Devonta Smith's production. And I have a pretty big write-up on that in the draft guide. But needless to say, when Dallas Goedert went down, Smith started producing wide receiver 1-like numbers. But Dallas Goedert is healthy to begin 2023, and he's one of Jalen Hurts' guys. So do we see the Devonta Smith that began last season that was wildly inconsistent and barely gave you wide receiver 2 production? Or do we see the Devonta Smith that went off towards the end of the year and gave you wide receiver 1 production? Unfortunately, until I see that, he's going to be a must avoid even at this ADP. But yo, Headliner Nation, I already gave you something to comment with down below earlier in the video, and if we hit 1,000 likes on this video, I'm going to choose somebody to give away a draft guide to. But most importantly, you got to hit that like button for me, and if you're new here to the channel, subscribe and stick around. Even if this is your first video and it wasn't enough information for you, make sure you catch everything else we do, because we go hella deep, baby. But Headliner Nation, I'm going to get out of here. Peace out, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.